Welcome to the show. It is Friday, baby. We are here. We are ready for the weekend. We've got plenty of Notre Dame football to talk about today. We are going to hear a slew of different Fighting Irish assistant coaches talk about a slew of different topics. Fall camp in week 2 right now for Notre Dame. I guess, Jesse, I should just change this backdrop since it's just since just you and I right now. I don't know what's going on.
This is unusual for Vince. I will give him that. Usually he's here like 1 minute, 2 minutes prior to the show, but he is clearly tardy today, which is coincidental for someone like Vince, because if someone were tardy, he would be busting their chops.
That's right. The Dean of Discipline would waste no opportunity to crack the whip on someone who was tardy.
I guess I'm glad I'm here and on time, because if not, you'd be by yourself at this point.
Yeah, I know.
I am also kind of worried, though, because Vince at least always says something if he's going to be late.
Yeah, he usually at least sends a text, and we both texted him. I've sent multiple texts, so I don't know what's going on.
Maybe he had to hit an emergency bathroom when it's taking longer than expected.
Maybe that's it. I don't know. All right. Well, we're counting down. We've got 23 days until this sucker kicks off. Notre Dame and Wisconsin at Lambeau Field. And, of course, Sports Radio WSBT is your home here in the South Bend market for Notre Dame football. I mean, not just Notre Dame football, but Notre Dame football, men's and women's basketball, Notre Dame hockey. We've got it all. We've got you covered. Basically year-round. We're talking Notre Dame football year-round. Let me ask you this, Jesse, with just slightly over 3 weeks to go until the opener, is it creeping along at this point, or is it flying by for you?
You know, I'm more or less on the flying by side, to be honest with you. I think really even the month or two before camp kind of flew by, and all of a sudden, next thing I knew, it was the start of camp. So I don't know if it's just because I have so much going on in the day-to-day where just like the days are going by fast, and then I look up and I'm like, oh, there's 30 days till camp. Oh, there's 23 days till camp. It feels like every time I look up, we're getting closer and closer. Only 3 weeks away.
I know.
What's also very indicative to me is I had to send out the fantasy football text last night. That's when I really know that football is like knocking on the door, because I commission our league, and so wrangling everyone together, setting the draft date, those sort of things. I'm like, all right, I guess football is back at this point. So I don't know. I'm excited for it. It is very clearly the best time of the year. I love getting up on Saturday, getting a hard workout in, earning my full day of laying on the couch Saturday and Sunday, and watching football. Also got my first NFL Sunday ticket bill. So like, that's how I also know that things are around the corner.
You've got the installments. What was your first installment?
It was like 110, I think.
Man.
And there's 4 installments, so you do the math.
Yeah. I haven't got mine yet, I don't think. I'll have to look and see if I've got mine. I would think if you got yours that I would be getting one as well. But I'm still just ticked off that YouTube, there's no way, as much as I travel, especially once November rolls around, and YouTube is literally, it is an app on my phone or your phone or what, it is literally the ultimate portable video device. And this is what, year 3 or 4 for Sunday Ticket to be on YouTube, but you can only watch games if you're sitting in your living room, basically. It's
well, they're stingy. They don't. I think it's like the password sharing.
They need to do something to solve that, though. Even if it's like multiple, login factors or whatever for whoever the person is who's trying to watch. Like, it feels like there's something they could do.
Scan my face if you need to. Who cares?
That's it. Maybe it's as much as that. Just you've got to have face recognition.
Yeah,
your phone.
I already have it on my phone, so just incorporate it into YouTube.
Yeah. Joe says it's going like a snail getting to the season. Like, for me, like I don't know. Like, these last 2 weeks have flown since training camp opened. Things have flown by for me, and I would think that they would fly by for everybody else as well. Like, aren't you dialed into training camp content? We've been bringing it every day. This day must have gone like a snail for Vince because here he is. He's just popping in.
You're not even like sweating or panting or like you just casually walked in from wherever you were.
When you're running behind, you can't act like you're running behind. You got to act like you guys started early.
It's a good point. It's a good point.
You know,
the more you like be fast but don't hurry. Like, isn't that one of the John Wooden idioms, or be quick but don't hurry, something like that? Like, you can't. You got to do it, but if you try to speed yourself up, all that does is make things more hectic, right?
I have 3 daughters, Sean Stiers, and I learned from Princess Diaries that a princess is never late. Everyone else is early. All right.
I think it's this. John is saying
that's probably not far off.
John says Vince was taking a nap. So
I may have, as dads do, rested my eyes for a moment when I got home from work at 4:45, and I was like, I got like 15 minutes. And then I looked at my clock. I was like, it's 10 after 5. That's a problem. So that's actually what happened. Yeah,
I had to go by. Do you guys like? Well, Jesse wouldn't know, but there's something going on at the St. Joe County Fairgrounds, like some kind of big concert festival or something.
Yeah, it's like Boots on the Ground or something like that. It's a bunch of country artists, I believe.
Well, that's the fairgrounds are right around the corner from where you guys are.
Well, that's why I'm asking, because that's where I drive to get here every day.
Yes.
And today, multiple intersections had traffic cops, so you had to sit there 5 minutes per intersection waiting for the other 3 directions to go. So that was neat.
It was like $50 a person. Like, it's not cheap. Whatever it is that they're doing, it's a pricey endeavor, at least from my standpoint.
And it's country music, so they can keep it.
Was it the Elkhart Fair a couple years ago where the stage collapsed or something? Was that
a while back? And I don't know. I remember what you're referring to. That was a while back. That might have been back when you were not as adult as you are now. That was a while ago, I think.
Not as adult.
We went to see Bare Naked Ladies and Sugar Ray at the Elkhart County Fair last year.
Nice.
Yes, that is in Goshen.
That's where the Elkhart County Fair is. Goshen, baby.
Yes. All right. Well, we have dibble-dabbled enough with our time today.
Yes, so, my fault.
I don't know if either of you looked at this rundown that I sent you earlier.
I did.
I actually did look at the rundown. Yes, I did.
Okay. Well, I hope you're curious then about
I'm very curious. I love game shows. I'm ready.
Yes. It's a little bit of a game show format that we've got here today. I've got some sound bites from different Notre Dame assistant coaches that we've got to talk to so far in the last week plus, or the first week plus of Notre Dame fall training camp. So I'm going to be the DJ today, is the way, or maybe I'll be Trebek, boys. Sort of a Sean Connery mixed with Trebek, I guess.
Sean Connery was on the show. He wasn't Trebek.
That's right. He was tested. I forgot.
Will Ferrell was basically Trebek, but he was just he was Will Ferrell.
It was also, but wasn't. No, it was. Who was the guy that played Connery? I can't think of his.
I don't remember his name.
Was it Daryl Hammond?
Yes, I believe it was. Yes.
Yeah.
Your mother, Trebek.
Okay, so I'm the DJ. Vince and Jesse are going to be the callers. This is an all request line show today. So I've got a list of all these different cuts from various assistant coaches laid out. We've got Mike Denbrock, Ja'Juan Seider, Charlie Partridge, Aaron Henry, Joe Rudolph, and there's one from Gino Gaduli in there as well. So you've got a list. You guys are going to take turns picking which cuts we're going to listen to and talk about. One of these cuts has a jackpot in it. So we'll see who gets it. That's what it was. Suck it, Trebek.
Fantastic.
All right, who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, Jesse was here first, so he'll get the first call out.
I'm going to hit the jackpot on the very first one. Give me the Charlie Partridge clip.
The Charlie Partridge clip. All right, so let me see. I should have numbered these to make it a little bit easier. I thought about it after the fact, but I didn't do that. So, Charlie Partridge, defensive line coach, talking about pass rush philosophy. Here we go.
That's a broad brush question right there. It's a combination of understanding lanes, right? Understanding protections. From a technique standpoint, you can't do the same thing or live in the same arena of pass rush all the time. You can't always speed rush. You can't always power rush. There's certain guys that are going to have different moves in the speed arena and different ways to escape off of the power arena. And you've got to make sure that you're playing chess. Your one move has to set up the next. Then your game sets up something possibly coming. If you have from a scheme standpoint, you can set up the next opportunity. There's a lot that goes. There really is a lot that goes into, and it's a combination of, again, just to recap, protections, right? How we can attack those protections, living in a power and speed bucket within what you're best at.
All right, so there's Charlie Partridge talking a little pass rush philosophy. Like he said, very broad question, because the question was literally just, what's your philosophy on pass rush? Now, I've got some specific thoughts on this. I'm curious what you guys like, what that answer there says to you when you hear Charlie Partridge talk about it like that.
I think the most important thing that he talked about was lane integrity. That is always going to be, important for Notre Dame. That's what got them beat against USC in the Coliseum when Caleb Williams was quarterback. They didn't have good lane integrity. Lane integrity is what prevents the explosive big plays or the kind of on the move type plays where the quarterback is just improvising, on the run essentially. And so when you're talking about good defense, I think lane integrity is very crucial. I thought it was nice when he's talking about the variation of pass rush based on protection. Basically kind of you're reading and reacting to what the offensive line is giving you. You can't just keep using the same moves over and over again. You have to be able to distinguish pass and run and use a different set of moves, essentially.
See, and that's what stood out to me the most because, look, I think maybe opinions may vary about Al Washington. I do feel like the defensive line's got better over his last couple of years here. But I think one critique that I would have looking at most like specific like edge rusher type guys, especially, but you can probably also put the, interior guys into this category as well. But again, specific to the guys on the edge, like it didn't feel like there was a big variation in what they were doing. It was just, there wasn't a lot of nuance, variance in anything. You would just see a lot of the same move over and over and over again, and it either worked or it didn't. And everything that I've like going back to the spring that I think we've seen and heard from Charlie Partridge is there is a lot different focus on very minute details. And you're going to see, it's not just going to be, beat your head against the wall and if it doesn't work, you're just going to keep doing the same thing. I think we're going to see an elevation in the kind of pass rush that these guys are going to be able to throw at teams.
There's definitely going to be more finesse. It's not just going to be pure athleticism, pure speed, pure strength. There's going to be some more finesse, like actual, technique moves. And like you said, a great amount of variation. The other aspect of things that I really liked is when he started talking about chess. I was like, where is he going to go with this? But using moves to set up moves, maybe you use something early in the game and you get an offensive lineman lean in, and then all of a sudden you kind of hit him with a counter off of that move you've been showing. That's the stuff I like to see. I like to see the more intellectual side of pass rushing, the chess side of it, setting up moves for the fourth quarter when you need a big sack or you need a big tackle for loss, obviously when there's more on the line in the game.
That was the most thought out, mentally prepared answer I've ever heard from a defensive coach. That's what I'll say.
A defensive coach, period?
Yes, from a defensive coach, period.
Which I like about him. He gives very thoughtful answers.
Yes, I was actually very – and I mean that as a slight to all defensive coaches out there, but I also mean it as a compliment. He's like, that was the most broad question I've ever heard. Let me just dial this down for you. And he just went after it. I was It was an impressive answer, in my opinion. I mean, most defensive coaches are like, see ball, get ball.
Well, no, exactly. And, again, and I think that's a lot of, sort of what we've seen from some of these defensive linemen.
Could have been a Jory.
But, and we'll hear some more comments from Charlie Partridge next week in detail about some different guys like Bryce Young and Keon Keeley, for example. I think we're going to do that on Monday's show, like more detail on some specific guys. But I thought that this was like a nice little primer, just because when you hear Charlie Partridge talk about technique, it's, again, it's like, well, his foot was pointed this way, and if it would have been pointed this way, or his hips are cocked out too far, very little things like that, and like there's just a much different level of detail from Charlie Partridge, and you can see why he's had the success that he's had for as long as he's had in the game, hearing him talk about those little things. So I'm just very excited to see what this defensive line does this year.
Look, if he can coach half as well as he can recruit, this defensive line is going to be nasty.
Yes.
I think a lot of that comes from the NFL, though. Once you get to a certain level and everyone's, of the same talent pool, you have to find little things to give you the advantage. Where the offensive lineman has his weight, where is he putting his hands? Can you tell based off his stance? Is it going to be pass or run pro? Like, I think that is probably a huge thing that he picked up in the NFL, is what you guys are talking about, those little things. And now he's bringing it to the college level.
All right, Jesse, that was not the jackpot. Just
does the winner actually get something, by the way?
What do you want?
Yeah, I know.
There's a jackpot. You can't say there's congratulations. We get a round of applause.
All right. Maybe a little bonus, little show bonus comes.
All right.
Let's go.
Keep it on the line. All right, Vince, it's your pick now. Which assistant do you want to hear from next?
Well, speaking of recruiting, I'm going to go with Ja'Juan Seider and what he looks for in high school recruits.
All right. Now, I'll say this up front. This is not the jackpot, but there's something very significant in here that I think will catch your ears. Listen to Ja'Juan Seider asked about what goes into evaluating high school running backs when he's looking at these guys. Here's what he said.
Right, that's why I think it's so important that you get out and see these kids, whether it's a practice or game. Because you get caught in, everybody can look good in film. There's guys that send film that's not the guy that's playing, so you better be careful with that too. Oh, that's real. I done seen that happen. But you trying to take out misses, right? Especially when money's involved now. Like, so you paying for that product in a way. And I want to say, yeah, everybody want to come here just because we're great at recruiting and talking, but all that plays a part. Like, it's really like semi-pro, NFL. But I think maybe to see kids struggle, but seeing them play and practice, see how he react, and then I'm looking for traits. Do those traits, if you give me the traits and you got the toughness, and we got to see that in practice, and you have some football IQ, can I get you in a meeting room and ask you some questions, see how you've been taught? But then, like I said, traits, right? To me, short area quickness for a running back, like that's a must. If a guy don't have, because we play in between the tackles, everything happened in this space. Like, everybody get caught up in speed. That's great. I'd rather have a guy who ain't afraid to play in between the tackles, stick his foot in the ground and get vertical, because we average, almost 7 yards a carry. If a kid can average 6 yards a carry, we're going to win a lot more games with that kid, or that one kid that have one-hit wonder and he always missing an open cuts. So, again, traits matter, right? Is he tough? Can he catch the ball? Will he stick his face mask on the kid? Those are things that we look for, because if you're an NFL guy, it's the same things you're looking for, because we want guys that's going to help us keep our jobs too.
All right, so a lot of little things. Yeah, that's right.
I like that.
Little chuckle there at the end, but I assume you heard the part that I referenced that came fairly early on in that cut. We can talk about some of the traits and stuff like that, but what stood out to me was the part about guys sending in film of somebody else, basically. Like the guy that you're sending in film, and you're not even sending your own film, you're sending in somebody else, and you're thinking you're going to get, you're going to land some scholarship that way at a major program.
That part blew my mind. I've been around high school recruiting and high school athletics and athletes for a very long time, and I have never heard of anybody doing that. And because most of the time these guys post their highlights on their Twitter page or, on social media, and I would like to think if for example, some kid at Penn High School, I'll use the school that I work at. Some kid at Penn High School posted his highlights, and it was a different kid at Penn High School, that he'd get called out by people online.
I know.
Like, I mean, I can't
How
imagine.
can you hide that these days.
Yeah,
you know?
that's wild to me. Maybe that was early on in his career, but that's wild, because you don't really send highlights necessarily straight to a coach anymore. It's not really a thing. It kind of is, but not really. So that's wild to me. That blew my mind. I've never heard that before.
That is shocking, and that takes a lot of stones, because once you get caught, it's like you're immediately scratched off the list.
100%. And word of mouth, right? Like,
yeah,
these coaches talk to each other.
That's what I mean. So it's like once you're caught, and you probably get your name blacklisted at that point. The part that stuck out to me is when he was talking about playing in between the tackles. They want to be a running team that wants to be between the tackles, and the toughness. I mean, if there has ever been a siren louder for Kedron Young dosage this year, that has to be it. Like, he is the most physical between the tackle runner that they have on the roster. He's jacked up. He's got a ton of muscle on him, and he's not looking to cut between the tackles. He's looking to run someone over and then maybe kind of veer off to the sideline and get north and south. But I don't know. That quote just, again, was screaming a lot of Kedron Young to me. Running between the tackles.
Really, it's screaming most of everyone they've got in the backfield. When
short area quickness,
short area.
Yeah, but when you think of Aeneas, though, I don't think of him first as that, like between the tackles type runner, just because of how he can play out of the backfield, catching the ball and all that stuff.
But he's an outside zone guy, as
right.
opposed to inside. Yeah. Agreed.
I get it. All right, I tell you what, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll hear some more comments from Fighting Irish assistant coaches on the show today. We've been able to talk to several of them over the first week plus of fall training camp. We'll have another opportunity to talk to some assistants this weekend, and I think that'll pretty much be it for a while until camp wraps up. A week from today, we've got a Marcus Freeman press conference, actually, so that'll be we'll be hearing some of his comments 1 week from today. We'll take a timeout. More assistant coach comments coming up next. Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com continues. Sean Stiers, Vince D'Addario, Jesse Stiers, all in the house here today. Irish English very happy with the YouTube ad that he got during.
Ooh.
I mean, honestly, it sounds like we timed it out just right.
That's well played.
Yeah.
Because I will say, when I watch you guys or I watch the afternoon show or whatever, it is fairly annoying when the ad pops up and you can still see people talking, but all you can hear is the ad. That's annoying.
Jesse is back. He goes into blackout mode during the commercial breaks.
I'm not the only one that's curious about what goes on behind closed doors there during the break.
You guys want a rundown of what I just did?
No,
I don't think so. No.
Oh, it was nothing crazy. I just made the bed, put a couple dishes away, got some water, and sat back down.
Got some work done. All right.
Good for you.
You guys got to be happy. Cubs keep rolling. Post-trade deadline, beat the Cardinals.
Big
Clay Holmes looked fantastic today. 7 innings, 1 hit, 1 walk. I mean, what more could you ask for in a shutout over those stanky Redbirds?
Wow. I like it. I like the disdain for St. Louis. I'm not going to lie.
Oh, I know. All right, whose turn is it? Who's next? We are listening. We're listening to some comment from Fighting Irish assistant coaches. Are we back to Jesse now?
Yeah,
we are. I didn't know if we were doing snake mode since I got first overall. Vince gets 2 and 3, and then it comes back to 4. But
we'll go back and forth. Now, if you hit the jackpot this time, that was actually my pick.
I'll go Joe Rudolph talking about Will Black and Anthony Knapp.
Good call.
All right, Joe Rudolph talking about Will Black. Will Black and Anthony Knapp. Let me find it here first. This is Notre Dame offensive line coach Joe Rudolph. He was asked what made him decide to ultimately go with Will Black at left tackle and move Anthony Knapp to left guard after he, of course, started at tackle for 2 years. I think your ears might perk up on this one.
I thought our 5th best guy was probably going to come from a tackle, and the way that Will moves at times, he's got a skill set that's pretty good, pretty conducive to being on the edge. And I thought that what Anthony did best was he's a prick. Like, he don't want to lose, and he ain't gonna lose, and that's
I remember watching his high school film.
And I think that's transferable to different positions. You know what I mean? And that's where, like, those guys feeding off each other a little bit is really good. And the more we can do that, like, you need if you're going to be Notre Dame and claim that, you know what I mean? Like, we're all in for each other and band of brothers, 5 is 1, all that. Then you really got to make sacrifices at times to do whatever needs to be done in order to get our best group out there and be the best O-line we could be for this team.
All right, so there you go. That's Joe Rudolph. I've got to say I'm a little bit disappointed because you guys didn't really react. That was the jackpot comment that you heard Joe Rudolph say there about Anthony Knapp and his disposition. Jackpot.
Winner, chicken dinner. I'll take my free ice cream cone at any time.
You guys are both like, yeah, well, okay, whatever.
I mean, he's an offensive line coach. Like, you kind of anticipate those things.
Got reaction from, there are like 5 or 6 people standing there. It got definite reaction when he said it in the moment. Anthony Knapp is a prick, is what he said. Like, that's why they wanted to move him inside, because this is their nastiest offensive lineman, essentially. So, I don't know. What do you guys think of what you heard there from Joe Rudolph?
To be honest with you, I was hoping for a little bit more depth in that answer. There was really a lot already. Basically he alluded to the fact that Anthony Knapp moving inside allows them to get their best unit on the field, and that was kind of assumed because they needed to get Will Black somewhere on the field because of his talent. But the thing that this screams the most to me is, Anthony Knapp is a prick, and he's out there looking to destroy people, but that is what you want in your pulling guards. And this just gives me even more shades of Zach Martin when you saw all those clips of him in the NFL lead blocking for Ezekiel Elliott. And he was just mauling defensive backs and linebackers 10, 15 yards down the field running with his running back. That's what I see Anthony Knapp doing this year. Is he's super athletic. He is definitely looking to take your head off. And so I want to see those highlight plays where he's, pulling around the corner, just looking for someone to absolutely annihilate. And that's going to be better suited for his skill set. He is a better run blocker than he is a pass blocker. So however you can use him in the pulling guard game is going to be really beneficial for Notre Dame.
Yeah, look, I mean, was I surprised he used the word prick? No, because, Joe Rudolph is an offensive line coach. They tend to be a little rough around the edges. And, I was waiting for him to say that Anthony Knapp is just a really aggressive run blocker, which is basically what he said. Yeah. Just couldn't come up with the words, which is, again, not all that surprising. I guess what stood out to me is well, we thought we'd find our fifth best guy at tackle.
That's what I also, that was kind of kind of throwing shade at Will Black there.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought too. Like, you're already announcing the fact that he's your fifth best lineman. Like, really? That's what you thought?
Because based on some of the stuff that we heard Rudolph say from earlier in the week, Vince, with some of the discussion that's going on with Ashton Craig and auditing and all that stuff. I mean, it feels like, okay, maybe when they ultimately moved Will Black into that spot, he was theoretically the fifth, the fifth guy.
I feel like there was
at a minimum, he's 4, but feels like he's probably even 3. Like, it feels like him, Gerby Lambert, and Anthony Knapp are the 3 guys at the, there's a conversation about Ashton Craig just because of the fact that considering moving him to right guard potentially.
I feel like he could have worded it a little bit differently. Hey, we're looking to get our 5 best on the field, and if that's the case, we were going to go from a tackle position. Like that kind of a thing, as opposed to saying we were going to find our 5th best, from the tackle position, and that was Will Black. Like, it just felt odd.
I mean, if nothing else, it's because the talent is stacking up with these guys that they're recruiting, and most of them happen to be tackles.
Exactly.
So there's
100%.
A huge pool of talent there from the tackle position.
Yes. And the way that he said it was basically that if they kept Anthony at left tackle, then they weren't going to have the 5 best on the field, is what it's kind of the way he should have articulated it, in my opinion. But we all know that Will Black is not the 5th best lineman. I'll just say that.
I totally agree with that too. I was like, that was the biggest head scratcher of everything. It's like, there was just no need to say that at the end of the day. Like, that was not, especially for the question at hand.
Man, you guys just can't have fun. I mean, that's what it comes down to. I've got old Grandpa Vince over here, and now Jesse's even joining in right now.
Water's warm, Jesse. Jump on in.
All right. Based on your responses, there is no jackpot. So,
now we're rescinding the jackpot.
The jackpot is gone.
That's right.
All right. Well, it's my turn. Am I allowed to go?
Sure.
Okay. I wanted to go to this one first, but I really felt like it wasn't going to be the jackpot one, so I didn't go this route.
Okay.
The first one that you have on the list is Mike Denbrock talking about the young quarterbacks. That's what I want to hear about.
Okay. All right. So
the jackpot's never in the first question, especially for a rundown sent to Vince.
Bingo. This is why I didn't pick that one.
I mean, that's a good call. That was a good way to decode it, because I definitely, when I made the list, I was like, well, I can't put it first. I've got to put it at least a few down.
Exactly.
So that's how Mike Denbrock's cut ended up at the top of the list as it appears on the sheet. So CJ Carr, of course, runs a master class when he's at the line of scrimmage, behind center, looking at the opposing defense, the way he surveys, makes his audibles and all that kind of stuff. And Mike Denbrock was asked how the young quarterbacks, how they're able to do with that kind of thing as they vie for that number 2 job behind CJ Carr.
I mean, I think the communication in the headset between me and CJ and me and the guys that are competing for the backup job is completely different. So CJ may have the ability, because he's earned it, to maybe go a little more off script than they do. And I'm going to want them to kind of stick to the check that I give them, if that makes sense. So I may give them an out if I think the defense is going to be in something that compromises what we're doing, and it'll be specific to those guys so they know what I want them to get to. With CJ, I'll do that at times, and then at other times I'll kind of say, listen, if you see something and you feel like it's a good matchup, let's go. Let's be aggressive with what we're doing. And then he kind of takes it from there and moves with it.
Do what I say, basically, young guys. So confidence, concern, what does it give you more hearing that from Mike Denbrock?
Does not surprise me in any way, shape, or form. He's got the training wheels on the younger cats a little bit. And that is
especially
where...
now.
Yeah, well, and that's where the headset communication really comes into play in a positive way. I mean, he's giving plays to CJ Carr. He knows that CJ Carr knows what he's looking for, and he's got carte blanche to do what he needs to do to get them into the best play possible. The younger guys, it's like, look, here's the play. Here's your one other option if you think you can use it, and here's who you should look for, as you're dropping back and, and things like that. And so it's just a little bit more angel on your shoulder kind of a situation for those younger guys, as opposed to CJ Carr, where I would imagine that the communication is pretty short between Denbrock and Carr when he's calling a play in and things like that. Then that allows CJ Carr then to take in the defense, look around, make a call or not make a call, depending on what it is, and kind of go from there. So,
yeah, I mean, I would think by the end of the season, CJ Carr was like, leave me alone. I got
pretty much like, we've heard of like, coaches letting the quarterbacks just kind of call it, that kind of a thing. I could see that happening at some point or another where they're like, hey, when the CJ, this is your drive, just call it. You got it, or something along those lines. I could see that happening.
So before I get into my response, the things that I couldn't stop thinking about were, one, like, just imagine in a game, you just got this voice that comes on and you can't say anything else, but you just have to sit there and listen to him. Like, that's such a weird thing where it's just a one-sided conversation where you can't really say anything back. And then second of all, I wish that there was a way, and maybe there is, I simply don't know, where it's kind of like PitchCom and MLB, where like when CJ Carr is up there, the rest of the quarterbacks can at least hear what's going on at the same time.
I'm pretty sure they can. Yeah.
I think all the quarterbacks have the speakers.
So they're all tuned into the same station,
because like in the NFL, you see guys with the headsets in, like the backup quarterback or the starter, like in preseason, the starter that's not playing, he's got a little earpiece. He's listening to the coach comm stuff. Yeah.
So like that's still super beneficial at the same time, because even though they don't have the, I guess you could say, the privilege to check out of whatever Denbrock gives them, they can at least still see the evolution and learn from it and kind of see, all right, here's what CJ, like that's the next step, basically. Here's where we're at. And the next step is getting to that level, but you're still going through the mental side of it of saying, okay, well, he's got all these options. Let's see kind of how it plays out based off of, what the defense gives them. This just makes me more confident. It gives me all the confidence that CJ Carr has the autonomy to do what he wants. He obviously knows the game super well, where if Mike Denbrock is saying, hey, I trust you to go off script here, trust your eyes and just make the right play, that gives me a ton of confidence. And then it also gives me confidence that he's doing the right thing with the younger quarterbacks, because you don't want to overload them, right? It's like progressions, okay, first it was, this is the play, we're just going to run it. Okay, here's a second option. And then as they continue to mature, they're given, maybe a third option or something like that. So I think that's the perfect scenario for how they're going about it.
Yeah, I mean, you expect that with CJ Carr with where he is, and like you were saying, it's a good developmental process for those young guys to be able to stand on the sidelines and hear what's going on and hear what some of the thoughts are and stuff like that. But then it's also a total training wheel situation for the young guys when they're actually the ones who are behind center right now. It's like, you're not there yet. You don't quite have that yet. And that's what it feels, like it feels like if one of those guys is thrust into a situation where he does have to be on the field, like there is going to be, like, I think from Mike Denbrock's perspective, he probably has to resist the urge not to over communicate, because of the fact that they're at such different points of their career developmentally right now.
I try to think about what it was like when I was coaching, and if I had like a quarterback that I trusted versus a quarterback who just may have been the best athlete on the field, and I wanted him to have the ball in his hand, more often. And, how much I would say to that kid, as you bring a play in, or whatever, like Frank Karczewski, who's the head coach at Adams now. We knew that he was out calling plays himself when he was on the varsity. You know what I mean? Like, he was changing plays that the coach was bringing in.
The funniest story I would hear is play would come in. And he's like, no, that's not the play. And then be like, here's what was actually meant to be called.
Yes.
And here's what we're running.
Here's what he meant to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then all to the other end of it, like Brandon Wadley, for example, great athlete. He played quarterback for us on our level, and he was just an athlete. And I had to kind of coach him up like, dude, this is what I need you to do, man. Like, just make plays and do that kind of a thing. So it's probably different for each quarterback that he has, depending on what their development level is. And so, a Teddy Gerard who just walked onto campus probably gets a little bit more coaching in the earpiece.
I would imagine so.
I
would imagine so. All right, we've got time for one or two more cuts here. Where do you guys want to go next?
Give me the Aaron Henry and Leonard Moore clip, please.
All right. So let me see if I can find it here. This is secondary coach Aaron Henry, one of Jesse's early favorites. And he has, of course, the enviable task of inheriting a unit that includes one of the best players in the country in Leonard Moore. So he discussed if it's a challenge for him to essentially find ways to challenge Leonard Moore.
It can be, but I think the beauty in this is he's never been around me before, right? The beauty in this is our first start together, right? The beauty in that is, right, like he's got a new position coach, and so because it's relatively new, right, I think I help him because I've had a top 5 draft pick walking into the room already who wasn't as highly touted as him coming into a year. Right, and so I think it's just natural. It's just natural for him want to understand that and get better. And he's a very respectful young man. Like, you would think a young man like that, right, as talented as he is, a new coach walks to the room like, I ain't gonna really take none of his advice. I did this already. Now that dude's a sponge, right? Hey coach, how can I get better? Hey coach, what do I need to work on? Like, he's coming to me like he's a freshman, which I love that, right? And so I really believe we all know that young man plays at a high level. We all seen him the last couple of years. And again, my goal to him is I want him to keep the blinders on. And he's done a tremendous job at that, right? He's a professional every sense of the word. He doesn't get flustered or bothered. And I'm trying to keep him on track and keep him on course and just continue to help him elevate his game, because he has some gifts and tools, but I think sometimes when it becomes like really, really easy for you, you can get lazy. I'm making sure he doesn't get lazy.
You don't see that out of practice. He's locked in all the time, and he's basically breaking up anything that comes his way. It feels like the easiest thing for a coach to do sometimes when you've got like the best player over here is like, well, I don't have to worry about him. I don't have to coach him, so you just focus on something else. But it feels like Aaron Henry is continuing to sort of search to find ways to engage and challenge Leonard Moore. And that's kind of scary when you think about it too.
Yeah, I think the most encouraging part of that clip was they have a relationship where they're bettering each other. Aaron Henry is learning from Leonard Moore, and I think at the same time, Leonard Moore is not stuck in, well, I'm a top 10 draft pick. What can you teach me? He's trying to get different set of eyes, different perspective from a coach that has been around the block, that has had a top 5 draft pick and those sort of things. So I think it's very crucial that we highlight that Leonard Moore is just continuing to sharpen his tool set, and he's allowing Aaron Henry to provide, ways to sharpen those tools, because I think that especially being a football player, you're constantly evolving. You're constantly trying to find ways. It's like a hitter in baseball who analyzes their swing after every game, and they're in the lab and they're looking at stuff like. That's what I think of with this relationship is Leonard Moore is constantly, looking for input on how he can just get 1% better every day.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it much better myself. I think it's like the Peyton Manning effect, right? Peyton Manning always wanted to learn more. He always wanted to know more. Tom Brady, same way. That's what the greats do. They're not content with their current level. And so they want to learn. They want to process. They want to get better and better and better. And that's what it sounds like Leonard Moore is. And he's got a coach, to your point, Sean, He's got a coach now that wants to push him and wants to make him better, make him greater than he is currently. And when you have that symbiotic relationship between the two, it can only spell success. I mean, that's a very exciting thing to hear, because you're right. There's plenty of coaches out there that just kind of leave the all-star alone and focus on everybody else, to try to get him up to that level. But he is also at the same time trying to elevate Leonard Moore, which that's exciting.
But the other thing is, and maybe you see this more with wide receivers, I'm not saying Notre Dame receivers, but just receivers in general, because they have that diva sort of reputation. But I mean, it can happen with cornerbacks as well. Like Leonard Moore could have the attitude, like, I got it, like, I'm fine. I don't, like, I got here under Mike Mickens, like, I don't need any more of this, but he's obviously very open and receptive, it sounds like. And when you see Aaron Henry and you hear him talk, you can hear, and Marcus Freeman has talked about it, just the energy that he brings, the kind of personality that he brings. So, like, you could see where it's easy to connect with him. And so I think it goes both ways. Like, the fact that Leonard Moore is, still willing to want to continue to raise the bar and is receptive to receiving that coaching. I think it speaks volumes for both sides of the deal.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine a better Leonard Moore, but I'm here for it, man. I'm here for it.
I know. All right, we got time for one more cut. Where are we going to go, Vince?
Look, I'm going to continue my path of quarterbacks, and I'm going to go with Gino Guidugli, talking about young wide receivers and things of that nature.
Yeah, so he talked a little bit about how CJ Carr needs to get some reps with the younger receivers. And Vincent, we actually heard this the other day when we were talking about something else. Jesse wasn't here, though, and I'm sure that all of our listeners probably weren't here as well. So I thought it was worth kind of bringing back, because he said something here that's pretty interesting, I thought. So he talked about CJ Carr needing to get reps with the younger receivers who don't always get to get work with the first-team offense without Carr taking reps away from the young quarterbacks at the same time who are battling for the backup job. So, like, you're not sticking Carr with the number 2 unit so that he can work with these guys. Here's what Gino Guidugli said.
Timing's important, and I think we did a good job of that. And CJ's very cognizant, whether it's Ian Premer at tight end, or it's Devin Fitzgerald at receiver, or the guys that are right on the brink of potentially playing. Like, he's going to make sure when we're in routes versus air, he's going to steal some reps. When we're an individual, he's going to steal some reps, and we can gather timing that way without necessarily putting him in with the twos to get timing with a receiver that he may need timing with or haven't got as much timing with. Yeah.
All right, so there's Gino Guidugli, and he mentioned a couple of names there, and it feels like that's pretty promising to hear.
It's not coincidental.
I want you to answer this one, Jesse, because Sean and I kind of talked about this cut yesterday or Wednesday, I forget which, and we had some thoughts based on what he brought up, but I want to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is coaches are very deliberate about what they say, and I think he is very deliberate in saying and bringing up Fitzgerald and Ian Premer. Those are the two guys who have probably stood out, two of the youngest guys who have stood out the most offensively in camp so far, guys that we've seen on the social media pages making big catches. And so obviously those things are catching the eyes of the coaching staff as well. I mean, predominantly what he's saying there is those guys have the potential to play, and when they do play, they have to be synced up with CJ Carr. It can't be we need to catch them up to speed because they're being thrusted into play. It's, all right, well, these guys, it's your turn to step up, and we're not going to miss a beat because you've already at least, run routes on air. You've gotten individual drills done with CJ Carr. Like, you guys have familiarity with each other. So it doesn't need to be this exclusive club where one guy is just, sticking with the ones and twos. There's going to be a time when those guys are going to have to probably step on the field at some point. And again, you just can't lose a step because in practice you failed to give them, routes together with CJ Carr.
I couldn't have said it better myself. I love the fact that he brought up, specific guys. Look, the quarterback coach isn't trying to be subtle about who the young guys are and what, dropping names and things like that. He's going to bring up the names that are important to his guys and
right.
Guys that his guys are throwing balls to. So I don't look at it as, he's trying to use the media to pump guys up or anything else. No, those are the guys that are standing out in practice. That's what I took that as. And those are the guys that we could see on the field, first weekend of September.
And if they're on the cusp right now, it just
Right.
feels like it's inevitable that at some point
Yep.
those guys become significant contributors to some extent. Because look, there are still some questions, and we've talked about it quite a bit with the wide receivers. You get past Jordan Faison, we know that he's going to be out there a lot. As long as Jaden Greathouse stays healthy, we know that he's going to be out there a lot. Really, everybody else, there's a lot I think that can still happen with the rest of that. Now that doesn't mean that it's a dire, desperate situation. It just means that we haven't seen enough to give us, any more informed opinion on who those next guys might be right now, even though we've seen a lot of Jerome Bettis Jr. out there so far, so like we've seen that, another promising young guy. But it dropping breadcrumbs like that to say that Fitzgerald and Premer are kind of right on that cusp, and it's important for CJ Carr to be able to get some of those reps right now in fall camp. Feels pretty significant. All right. Speaking of CJ Carr, you'll hear from CJ Carr in hour number 2, Rapid Fire. We go till about 6:40-ish tonight because we've got South Bend Cubs baseball coming up in a little bit. But Rapid Fire is on the way. CJ Carr, plenty more Notre Dame football talk coming your way. Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. Hour 2, weekday sports beat with IrishBreakdown.com. Rapid fire time. Sean Stiers, Vince D'Addario, Jesse Stiers. We head into the home stretch of this week as Notre Dame football training camp continues. Fall training camp. We are basically the beginning of week number 2 for the Irish right now. A week from today, Marcus Freeman's got a press conference scheduled, so we'll hear some of his comments next week. But in the meantime, we've got plenty of other things to talk about. There he is. The white dot in the middle of the black backdrop is back. Jesse Stiers peeking out from behind the curtain. So Danny Cannell's got an opinion on Notre Dame. Here's the Cover 3 podcast co-host on national title hopes for the Irish this season.
Me is the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. I look at everybody. There's a lot of predictions for them to be in the college football playoff, but this one really, to me, is about the ceiling of what they could be. I am selling Notre Dame as a national championship contender. The reason why, I think their lack of competition in the regular season, which is only a 3-game schedule with BYU, SMU, and Miami, I think that eventually comes back to haunt them in the postseason. What did we see last year with Ohio State? Perfect in the regular season. They go to the Big Ten title, get beat by Indiana, go to the playoffs, get beat by Miami. First time they really were battle tested. I think you could see the same outcome from Notre Dame. Still bullish on them in the regular season to make it there, but their ceiling is what I'm selling.
Yeah, I think the reason why I would kind of sell them, I think they're an awesome team, it's the weapons, right? Like, do they have the guy at receiver who actually scares you if you're another playoff team? I don't know. Obviously, they lost 2 first-round running backs, which is going to be a pretty big deal. So, like, do they have enough at receiver to where it's like, all right, 3rd and 8, guy's not open, got to throw it, make a play. Do they have that guy? I don't know.
Oh, people just can't resist the urge to drop that in there. You may have heard. Okay, so 2 different comments here. The first one from Danny Cannell, selling the Irish as a national title contender. The second one was from Bud Elliott, so we'll take them one at a time. Cannell's comments first. Selling Notre Dame as a national title contender because of the schedule. Fair or foul argument, guys?
Am I taking this? Or you taking the lead on this, Vince?
Go ahead. You look like you're ready to pounce.
Man, should I start this off with clip it? Because I'm about to freaking destroy Danny Cannell right now. So the first part of this is he contradicted himself in his own answer. He said Notre Dame doesn't have anyone, and so he's worried about once they make the playoffs. And then when he was towards the end of his answer, he said, well, I'm bullish they even make it there. And it's like, so which one is it? You just said you think they're going to make it but not be ready in the playoff, and then you said, well, I don't even know if they're going to get to the playoff. And then like this whole thing about it's a 3-team schedule. It's all Power 4 opponents outside of Rice and a team that is a triple option that no one wants to face first and foremost. And so, I mean, let's break it down. All of those games are late in the season. All of those games have the potential to be a top 10 matchup. I can guarantee you that at least one of them is going to be a top 10 matchup. And I think BYU is going to be a top 10 matchup by the time Notre Dame plays as well. So it's like, I don't know what you want. There's probably multiple top 10 opponents. It's predominantly a Power 4 conference or Power 4 teams. And then the other part of it is look at the national championship winner from last year. IU, they didn't have some gauntlet that they ran through in the regular season. They looked just fine in the playoff because you know what it's about when you get to the playoff? It's about, is your roster healthy and have you been playing dominant football up until that point?
That you nailed the part that I was going to hit on. Look, if we want to just say that Notre Dame has a weak schedule, let's just pretend that that's accurate and everybody's right. And
you're not going to change everyone's mind on this, so we might as well just accept it as fact at this point.
Exactly. So that's fine. So Notre Dame has a weak schedule. There's a difference between winning all of your games against a weak schedule, okay, and going 12-0, making the playoff, right? And squeaking by like 1-possession games and things like that.
Like the year they went to the national championship against Alabama.
Completely agree. If they roll through this schedule and absolutely dominate every single team that they play, including the Miamis, the BYUs, the SMUs, the 3-game schedule that he was talking about, then that's that's a different conversation. So it's not just the win-loss record when we get to 12 games. you have to look at how they played those games.
Right.
They're squeaking by, that's one thing. But if they're absolutely dominating in these games, and look, there's going to be ebbs and flows.
See the difference in roster.
Like, come on, man. Like, you can't just take it and, oh, it's an easy schedule, so they're not going to be ready. Like, it's a perfect example as IU, like you said. Perfect example. That was the biggest cupcake schedule on the planet, and they went out there. They had, like, one tough game, I think at Oregon. They won it. Good job.
The three best teams
come on.
Indiana played last year in the regular season were Oregon, Illinois, and Iowa.
Exactly.
And you're trying to tell me that they played a tougher schedule?
And they went undefeated, and they won a national title. Like,
right.
It can be done, Danny.
And they looked fresh for the playoff, like their roster was in good shape. The players looked fresh. They were, predominantly healthy. It's just say you don't like Notre Dame,
Just say it.
Just say it.
I'd be okay with that. Like, just say it. Okay.
Because cool. I don't need all the other crap. Just say you don't like Notre Dame, and here's the things that I'm making up to defend that.
Right.
First, I like your point, Jesse, about the backloaded schedule, because the toughest games will come on the back part of the schedule, starting with BYU in October, and then at least what we think right now are going to be the other two toughest game, the toughest game, Miami, but then SMU will also come after that in November. But to your point about what you guys are saying, people like Danny Cannell are literally bending over backwards, just looking for ways to create their own confirmation bias to match what they already think about Notre Dame. He doesn't like Notre Dame, so this is the best argument that he can come up with to confirm why he doesn't think they're going to contend for a title this season. Because, justifiably so, you brought up Indiana, but let's even just look at Notre Dame. So, okay, Miami, BYU, SMU, presumably Notre Dame's three toughest games in 2026. Well, go to 2024 when they went to the national championship game. Are those three toughest games easier than Texas A&M, Louisville, and USC in 2024? And USC is the third best team. They only won 7 games that year, and Georgia Tech was a 7-win team. There are a handful of teams that Notre Dame played that year that fall into that third tier. I mean, you can argue that in terms of the three toughest games, which, let's face it, virtually any one of these Power 4 conference teams, at most they're going to play 3 teams that are on par with Notre Dame's 3 toughest games this year. That's what it is. Again, in spite of the fact that people want to keep telling you that the Big Ten plays these, gauntlet schedules and everything. But Texas A&M, Louisville, USC in 2024, if those are the 3 toughest game, what was the indication that Notre Dame would beat 3 straight top 10 teams once they got to the college football playoffs, including Georgia? So what makes this year any different than 2 years ago when they actually did get to the national championship game? Again, he's looking for reasons to eliminate Notre Dame. He found a reason, and again, he's got to bend over backwards to get there.
Can we talk about the other Joker that was on there too?
I'd like to say one more thing before we get to Bud Elliott.
All right.
I like to take this a step further. If you were looking at odds and probabilities, if you gave me both Miami and SMU to either or win the ACC, I would take that every day of the week. One of those 2 teams is likely going to be the best team in the ACC this season.
Yeah.
They might play each other in the ACC championship, honestly, when it's all said and done.
Yeah.
And then you factor in BYU. They're not finishing worse than second in the Big 12 this year. So there's a high probability that Notre Dame is going to play 2 conference championships on the back end of the season when teams are really gearing up to go to the playoffs. I don't know what more you want of that. You could be playing the ACC champion and the Big 12 champion a few weeks before the playoffs start. I guess I don't know anymore. Is it if they're not in the Big 10 or the SEC, does it not matter anymore?
Pretty much.
I mean, literally, who you play is irrelevant. The only question is, are you an elite team or not? Because again, whether it's Notre Dame's schedule when they went to the championship game 2 years ago, or Indiana winning the title last year, the schedule they put, because it's been talked about ad nauseum, with who they play in their frickin' non-conference. You factor that into Again, Oregon, Illinois, Iowa, 3 best teams Indiana played last year. I didn't hear any of these people complaining about that when Indiana went 16-0 and won the national championship. Because nobody cares about Indiana the same way they care about Notre Dame, Lightning Rod. Okay, so the second one was Bud Elliott. He's not sure of the Irish because of a lack of offensive weapons. You guys buying or selling that?
Let me just say this. I will say that I would have taken his comment a lot more seriously if he would have just named off one person that plays on the offense at Notre Dame, not named CJ Carr. Just give me one name to show me that you have any idea what you're talking about. Because all he did was reference the fact that they don't have Love and Price anymore, and so he doesn't know if they have enough options on offense. Like, how about you just rattle through a couple of the names? Like, maybe this kid will step up, and maybe this guy won't step. Like, prove to me that you even have a clue what Notre Dame's offense is going to do. Then we can have an intelligent conversation. If all you're going to do is say that they lost 2 first-round picks in the backfield, I don't care about your opinion.
It's just a blanket statement. Like, say, I'm worried about this person at wide receiver. Is this person going to overcome this? Here's the only compliment I can give. It's better. It's a better take than what Cannell did, but that's a low bar. Like, I think that it should have been a step further. They have one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Do they have an offense that can put them over the top, basically? There's offensive weapons, and they're going to produce. But is it enough to make them a national championship caliber type of team? I think that's the better question at the end of the day.
No, I agree. I mean, again, look at Indiana last year. Roman Hemby, Omar Cooper, and Elijah Surratt. Like, are those elite skill players? They're very good college skill players who played on a team that turned out to be great, obviously. That's it at the end of the day. But again, look at the playoffs from when Notre Dame made the run to the national championship a couple of years ago. Love and Price in 2024 were not the Love and Price of 2025. Like, they were still very good, but they weren't at that level, right? So like, you've got Riley Leonard, great competitor, challenged as a consistent passer. That's been well documented. Faison and Greathouse, pedestrian during the regular season in 2024. Just go look at their production for different reasons, but they were Notre Dame's top 2 receivers during the playoff run. First Faison the first couple games, then Greathouse the last couple of games. Now they're 2 more years more mature. CJ Carr, Fernando Mendoza, all power to him. Won a Heisman Trophy, led Indiana to a national championship.
He came out of nowhere, by the way.
Carr is going to be a better quarterback this year than Fernando Mendoza was last year.
Agreed.
I guarantee that.
Yep, agreed. It's so lazy. It's just so lazy. You bring up Notre Dame because you want people to listen and you want clicks and all these different things. Then give me some good analysis. That's all. It doesn't take that much. It takes $6.99 to go out there and get the Irish Breakdown magazine and 5 minutes of reading to come up with a couple of names so that you can sound intelligent. Like, well, I'm sorry, that's pathetic.
To play devil's advocate even harder, Notre Dame's defense is going to be loaded. Like, top 5 defense in the country. Even if their offense isn't absolutely bonkers insane, they're going to have a really good defense that they can rely on, especially in the playoffs. So again, it's like,
that's the other part of it.
The offense just has to do enough, and anything above that is the cherry on top because of what you have defensively as well.
I like this Goolsby versus Kent guy. He shows up every couple weeks to troll us on our points. That's fine. He says, one could say Notre Dame had CJ Carr, a quarterback that played somewhat decent against below bottom tier teams. Against the considered good, he was mediocre. And we've talked about that. Like, I don't feel like we've got to talk about it on every show, but he was also a first-time starting quarterback last year. Literally,
with the schedule front-loaded.
Yeah, with a front-loaded schedule. And I've said this before. If the Miami and Texas A&M games are a month and a half into the season, I think you get different results out of those games in a lot of different ways, not just with CJ Carr, but with the defense as well, which was also a major factor in both of those games. But again, like,
I mean, look,
so much of the conversation always centers around what happens offensively and specific to the quarterback. But we expect an elite defense once again this year as well, and that is going to play a huge factor.
CJ Carr also, threw for 2 touchdowns against Miami. One was a no-look pass that everybody wanted to talk about.
Right.
He also threw for just shy of 300 yards against Texas A&M and led an offense that scored 40 points. So mediocre, I don't know that I'd go that far if you just actually look at the stats and what he was able to do.
The only game I was disappointed in was the Pittsburgh game, but they didn't even need him to play super well in that game.
And he pressed against USC. I'll give him that. But again, he didn't have to do anything because all he had to do was hand the ball off to Love and let him just run rampant all over the Trojans.
Yeah, for some reason, USC thought that Jeremiah Love wasn't as big of a threat as CJ Carr. They game planned for CJ Carr and let Jeremiah Love just do his thing. So, yeah, all he had to do was hand the ball off in that game because of just game plan specific.
USC proved whether USC and
exactly. And they refused to get out of that defense too, by the way.
I know.
Hilarious.
That's the craziest.
Hilarious.
Just stick with the whole thing the whole way. All right. Speaking of CJ Carr, we got to talk with the Irish quarterback last week. The question was posed to him in May, June, and July. Did he look for ways to challenge himself through the offseason before fall camp started? And here is CJ Carr's answer.
July is what, spring? Sorry, I don't know what month it is right now. Is that right?
Part of it's spring.
It's August 7th.
Everything basically since spring practice leading up to now.
Yeah, I mean, that's huge. I think, talking to my dad a bunch, like spring is never enough ball, right? You're practicing 2 or 3 times a week, and you're like, I just got to go to class on Tuesday. This is boring. Like, let me go practice. And then you come into camp, and it's a lot. So, but both are super valuable. And you need both to hone in the mental part of the offense and what the defense is bringing you. And again, like the reps that you get in spring are invaluable. And then going into summer, there's no coaches around. So the leaders on this team and the leadership that's required to help, practice just move smoothly is huge and brings you closer together with the guys because there's nothing to do but hang out with each other. So, it's invaluable.
All right, so there you go. CJ Carr, what do you guys think of that?
Vince just points to me. I'll take the mic on this one. I think the biggest thing that he spoke to there was basically leading his own practices outside of, in the summertime, building that camaraderie with his teammates, not only at football, but probably off the field, just hanging out, getting to know each other a little bit more, developing that bond even more, developing the trust even more. And so I think, the biggest way that he challenged himself over the summer was growing as a leader, someone who is stepping up and saying, hey guys, let's just go out and run some routes today. Let's make sure we're staying sharp. Let's make sure that, by the time camp starts, we're hitting the ground running. We're not going back at all. We're simply going forward. And so I think that this offseason for someone who is, who started off as such a young quarterback, this was a big year for him leadership-wise because he is going to be completely in charge of the offense. And that's we all know the skill is going to be there. The arm talent is going to be there. The knowledge is going to be there. But what can he do as a leader? Because when things get tough, because at some point this season is going to get tough, they're going to be in high-leverage games. Is CJ Carr going to be in command, calm and cool, to lead the rest of the guys? Because there's nothing more assuring as a football player than seeing your starting quarterback run out there with confidence, knowing he's got it under control. If the quarterback's calm, the rest of the team is calm. I think that's the simplest way to put it. And that's a mark of a good leader.
I never worried about the fact that CJ Carr would be on the same page as the receivers from a physical standpoint. Like that never worried me at all. And I think the biggest step up, like, look, last year, CJ Carr just needed to be CJ Carr and just focus on what he needed to do. And one of the maturation process things that we're all looking at from year 1 to year 2 of him being the starter is now he's a leader of not only the offense, but also the defense. So the entire team, he's a leader and he's a guy that they're looking up to. And I think that's kind of the point that he was making. He's like, I'm hanging with the guys. Like we're talking football. We're just hanging out. We're learning each other, things like that. I think that's huge, man. You don't want to Jesse's point, you don't want a kid who's just who's isolated, and things like that. I talked to like my kid, there's a quarterback competition for his team. And there's a kid that probably has the most talent, but like he's just kind of a loner, doesn't really talk to the guys, not much of a leader, but he's got the most talent. But you got another guy who's a leader and is a guy you want to follow, but maybe doesn't have the most talents. Like which guy do you go with? Like that kind of a thing. You want to hear CJ Carr that he's a leader, that the guys are looking up to him, on both sides of the ball. And I think that's the biggest step forward for him.
My biggest takeaway was just CJ Carr is so locked in, he doesn't even know what day it is.
A month, yeah.
Let alone what month it is. He's like, off season? What's an off season? Because he's doing all that stuff that you guys.
That's a good point.
We don't have to rehash the whole thing. That's what he's like. What I have no idea what day it is. What months are we even talking about? Like what's the off season? Because it just literally feels like that. Whether it's like, hey, you pack up the guys, you go to Florida. And you get a little extra work, like they sort of continued that tradition that's been going on, where the quarterback and the receivers go away. And Aeneas Williams was part of that group that went away with them to Florida as well. It just feels like there is no offseason for CJ Carr. He's just, whether it's in the film room, on the field, doing the bonding stuff that you guys are talking about, he's always doing something to get himself ready to go. But he's always going to have detractors, apparently, as well.
Yeah, it's okay.
Joe says, honest question, do they have black market cell phones to communicate with coaches during the summer months?
They're allowed to talk to the coaches. They're not allowed.
They just can't run organized practice.
Coach them on the field.
Right. Exactly. And like
the coaches can literally lay out everything.
They give them practice plans.
Yeah.
They hand it to them like, here, you take this and do this. Like they just can't be there instructing it. And look, that's all going to change anyway. They're talking about allowing these guys to have summer practices and things like that. So it's all going the way of the dodo. But yes, they can give them practice plans. They can talk to the kids. They can, we hear all the time about Marcus Freeman working out with the team and things like that. Like they're probably talking about football during that time. Just saying.
All right. I was looking at I was trying to decipher something that was written. I'm not really sure exactly what some of this stuff means that's in there, but
there's a troll in there.
Did you guys see a little bit of Jeremiah Love with the preseason debut for the Cardinals?
I did, and then Vince sent a nice clip this morning of a montage of every touch he had, and that was
wasn't that
beautiful?
Was nice.
It was. Saves me a lot of time.
He's got at least some Adrian Peterson comparisons. I realize this is early, it's preseason. But like, you guys buying or selling Jeremiah Love, Adrian Peterson comparison? Just watching him play.
So many people get all up in arms when you start making these comparisons because it's like, it's like I'm not comparing the production or the Hall of Fame career. I'm just looking at traits. I'm looking at running style. I'm looking at physicality. And when you watch Jeremiah Love run, Adrian Peterson was an angry runner. He was very physical, but he had the finesse as well. He would hit you with the juke. He would hit you with a spin in the open field. He'd hit you with a hurdle in the open field. And he had kind of this frame, you know what I'm talking about, where he's big in stature. He's when he's running, he's very upright. Like that's the thing that I'm looking for in the comparison. And I think it's a spot on comparison. So I'm absolutely buying it. I'm not buying the career. I'm not buying the production. But when you look at how, like, if you took them side by side and and you showed a clip of them running in a game and you blurred out everything else, right? And it was just two figures on the screen running, they would look very similar, almost identical in my opinion. So I'm buying this.
I actually saw a little Barry Sanders in kind of what he was doing with like kind of the shiftiness and kind of the spin move. Like Barry was so good at the spin move. I mean, that's kind of what I saw. Again, it's one game, obviously, but we've had the opportunity to see Jeremiah Love for the past few years. And so we've seen what he's able to do. Look, going up against NFL talent, it's going to be tougher than college talent. I think we can all agree on that. We saw the spin move. We saw a hurdle. We saw the toughness going between the tackles. Like, we kind of saw everything that makes Jeremiah Love special. And I don't see why that won't continue every time he touches the football. I think it's exciting.
Goolsby versus Kent just made an idiotic comment. It just validates everything that we've thought about the few comments that he's made in this show and what basically the negative take that he has on everything. He says, like this ridiculous take, J Love compared to AP. Look, the delusional. All right, genius. Why don't you go Google Adrian Peterson highlights and watch some Jeremiah Love highlights? And again, no one is saying the career, of a guy, Jeremiah Love having one preseason game versus a Hall of Fame running back, one of the greatest to ever play. Look at the running style, genius, and you will see what we're talking about. Because Adrian Peterson, I was actually kind of shocked because when I heard the comparison at first, again, it's like, okay, Adrian Peterson, Jeremiah Love. But when you look at the way they run, Adrian Peterson ran like his feet were angry at the ground. And like when you look at Jeremiah Love, you see some of that. And like what Jesse was saying, that both the physicality as well as like the shoulders square to the line of scrimmage,
yes,
the spin
very
moves
upright,
the hurdles that he makes, all those different things. Like if you just talk about running style, which if you separate your own bias, from not wanting to see it, when you look at the running style Jeremiah Love has compared to Adrian Peterson, huge similarities between them.
Everybody's talking about how it'll be irrelevant because he's with the Cardinals and all these different things. Look, he's going to struggle with the Cardinals. I think we can all agree on that. The difference is, unlike a Barry Sanders from back in the day, Jeremiah Love will hit free agency at some point, and he'll be able to go wherever he wants to go, and it could end up being a very good thing. So as long as he stays healthy, keeps doing his thing, he'll make the Cardinals, relevant. He'll make us watch Cardinal highlights, for a while. I don't know if he'll make a difference like getting the Cardinals to the playoffs or anything like that. They got a lot of work to do.
Right.
But they're going to be relevant from watching a highlight package. I can tell you that right now.
I think the best thing that Jeremiah, because the Cardinals are not the ideal situation. They have a bad offensive line. I mean, the in that montage you sent, there were times where he was getting hit at the line of scrimmage, but still found ways to get 2 or 3 yards.
He averaged 5.3 yards a carry last night.
When was the last time that happened for an Arizona running back? Yeah,
exactly.
But Genty couldn't do that last year with the Raiders. He couldn't find ways to just at least get a yard or two, and I think that's the differentiator between those two. Agreed. And another big thing is, I know Kirk Cousins isn't the sexiest quarterback, but I think them 100% going with Kirk Cousins is going to help Jeremiah Love, because Kirk Cousins he has enough experience where he's not just going to let a play get blown up. If he sees a blitz, he's not going to hand the ball to Jeremiah Love just to go run right into a blitz, basically. At least he's got an experienced quarterback to get them out of, a bad look. So it's not Jeremiah Love just getting absolutely crushed because the defense knows what's coming, right? They're not going to be this spectacular offense, but at least he's got an experienced quarterback who can get them on the right track. Another thing, I saw Jeremiah Love's odds on FanDuel today. I was looking at some futures. Plus 250 to get 1,000 yards. I think that's very doable for him. I know there's going to be a split share. 750 yards was like minus 175. Just some food for thought. Just some things to think about there a little bit.
1,000 yards in 17 games. That's very doable, I feel like.
For that kind of odds?
I'm just concerned because it is a good division. You've got
that is true. Really good defenses.
Two really good defenses and another that's pretty good after them. So, and you got to play each of those teams twice a year.
That's a 6 of your 17.
That's 58 yards a game.
Man, that's just two. That could be 2 or 3 runs for him.
That's exactly what he got last night. 11 carries for 58 yards, 5.3 per carry.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and apply some pancake batter here.
Hit it, baby. Hit it, baby.
Just so you know.
It's all you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you start a comment with "you was," we're done. Sorry.
We're done.
I'll be that guy.
Never have to worry about that guy again. I got no more use for that guy.
Yeah,
Well,
we're done here.
There was something funny in the chat because there was a guy that said basically he can't see that person's comments, and he blocked them a long time ago when they were being an Ohio State troll. So it is very clearly someone who changed their handle, but it's still the same account.
Right.
So someone just changed their name and is trying to be, a new version of themselves, but the same troll. So I think we've debunked the situation.
We were
yeah.
infiltrated by an Ohio State troll, is what you're saying?
I believe
That's
so,
what I was
yeah.
trying to decipher. What was like, but like this was leading, who that was exactly.
Yeah.
So for those listening on the radio, of course, the show does also stream live on YouTube. So that's what we're talking about. We had an Ohio State troll popping up in the YouTube chat. So is what it is. So
Yep.
Moving
real
on.
quick before we finish up tonight, this whole thing with Jaden Daniels and
my
the cease and
goodness.
desist order with LSU doesn't want anyone, using his number 5, former number 5 jersey from his time with the LSU Tigers. Apparently, I doing some research on this today. The tradition at LSU is that current players don't wear the numbers worn by former Heisman winners in the program. So I don't know what you guys think about this. Is there any part of you that sides with Jaden Daniels?
No, not even one. No. Look, if you've got an issue with that quote unquote tradition that LSU has, okay, fine. This is not the way to handle that situation. Okay. It can't possibly be difficult for Jaden Daniels to shoot a text to Lane Kiffin and ask him a question or have a conversation about it. There's an adult way to handle this, and then there's the Jaden Daniels way to handle this. He handled it all wrong, and it is not going well for him.
No. Court of public opinion is just crucifying.
He wants the copy of the Heisman Trophy back from the school.
Right.
Like, that's not even yours.
So I know we're on limited time, and I'm going to try to be really concise. The only part that I agree with Jaden Daniels is his NIL with LSU has expired. So LSU contractually isn't allowed to be using Jaden Daniels to generate, revenue off of his name. So that part I agree with. But the part about, getting the Heisman back and the cease and desist and just making it all public is really silly. And then I went through the last 15 Heisman winners. Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Caleb Williams, Travis Hunter are the only 4 guys whose numbers are out of circulation. Alabama doesn't retire numbers. Oregon doesn't retire numbers. Notre Dame doesn't retire any of their Heisman winner numbers.
Very few programs actually retire numbers.
Have they never used number 9 since Joe Burrow won the Heisman? You're 100% sure on that?
100% sure. But Joe Burrow led an immaculate season. And you know what he did do? He won a national championship. He did more to earn, what's going. Jaden Daniels won Heisman on a very mediocre team. I guarantee if you would have won the national championship and elevated your team, because it's about team success and not individual, my number, you might have a case. But Joe Burrow led one of the best single seasons ever, statistically and team success wise.
I just don't think in college sports. I mean, you've got the rosters are so big that you've got multiple players wearing the same number. For goodness sakes, look at Notre Dame. Look how great Jeremiah Love was. Now, he didn't win a Heisman. He was a Heisman finalist, but I mean, he's gone, and you've already got Jaden Osbury and Bubba Frazier wearing number 4. And like Paul Hornung, he won a Heisman Trophy for Notre Dame. He wore number 5. Boubacar Traore and Cam Williams both wear it.
I wish
every program's got its own thing, but it just feels like too much to me. Like can't you just accept your Heisman and keep on moving?
I haven't said this term in a long time, so the chat should thank me. I wish more people or more teams would do what the Cowboys do. It's an honor to wear the 88. It is a privilege to wear the 88. It is almost a passing down. You should want the next premier guy to wear your number. I personally would want more of that. Like it's so stupid. Like, okay, you're taking a number out, Who cares? Let the next great guy wear it. Continue the legacy.
Surely they've, there's some display inside there where, it's like Jaden Daniels has made a big deal of. Shouldn't that be enough that his Heisman is on display and everyone knows that he won I mean, he didn't even start his career at LSU. For
exactly.
He only played there for 2 years. I just so much. All right, we're going to have to wrap it up with that. We got to get out of here. We got South Bend Cubs baseball coming up. Great stuff, guys. Appreciate everyone in the chat. We will be back Monday with more Notre Dame football training camp talk. Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com.
See you, Snoozy.